Thanks for the introduction. So, yeah, Eric mentioned it. The title's right there. This is a kind of journey report, if you will. And it's actually meant to be a bit more of, there we go. Okay. It's been meant to be a bit more of a lightning talk. This isn't a deep dive or anything because I didn't want to bore everyone to death. Uh, as mentioned, I'm Jim Holmes. I'm a uh, modernization strategist with MSD, and we do more than testing. It's like DevOps, Agile, all kinds of stuff. Oh, by the way, that is not me. This is me. I am a 57-year-old, overweight, balding guy. This is not a talk about how much iron. Things that I've found and discovered as I've been lifting for a while. So about, I don't know. I'm having some weird PowerPoint issues here. Excuse the problems. All right, there we go. So several years ago, one of my counselors, therapist, said that I should look at getting into weightlifting. I needed to get out a bit more. I needed to break some isolation. I needed some physical activity and I needed some mental activity. And there's actually a lot of really interesting science around weightlifting, specifically technical or Olympic weightlifting and mental benefits. And my guy said, yeah, it'll be fun. Sure, we've heard that before. So as I was working through all of these really hard exercises and learning how to weightlift, I had an epiphany. But it really wasn't so much an epiphany as it was relearning a lot of things that I'd already known in my career, but had kind of forgotten. And the biggest meta point was that what you figure out in one domain can apply to far different things that you're doing. So this is a story about me kind of learning some things along the route. This is Lydia Valentine, who is probably one of the top lifters in clean and press. And she really impresses me because she's got tremendous form. Plus, Lydia is also my daughter's name. Anyway, along the journey, finding out things about weightlifting that directly applied to stuff I do in my day job for software delivery and coaching others. And one of the first things that really hit home was the need to make complex things simple. In weightlifting, the hardest lift is called a snatch lift. And a snatch, you start with the weight on the ground here, like you can see, and in one smooth motion, you're pulling it up, you're accelerating, you're exploding underneath, and then you're finally raising the lift up. That's Rebecca Koha, and that's from the 2017 World Championships. She was 18 at the time, and that was 95 kilograms that she just threw up over her head. And so that may look like that is just all strength and just throwing the weight up, but far from that. The snatch is extraordinarily hard, and it's really, really technical. And as a matter of fact, really good coaches break learning the snatch into like 13, 15, or 20 different discrete movements. So you can actually look up, there's a link there for a YouTube video of her being coached through Snatch Technique. And they make this hard, complex movement into something very simple to learn. Well, not simple, but you're breaking it down into a lot of pieces. And they start, first off, with something as simple as taking a PVC pipe and learning exactly where your hands need to be on the bar, how far apart your hands should be. And then they'll move into things like a discussion of where your elbows should be. They should be pronated inward, and where your shoulder blades, your scapula should be. And then working backwards, they get to the catch, meaning you've pulled that weight up, you explode down under it. What's your back posture? How far down should you be squatted? And then continuing again in reverse, they start talking about how you're pulling the weight up off the ground and everything that's involved there. So again, it's like 15 tiny steps to get this extraordinarily complex movement down to where you can be successful at it. And so if we think about stuff we run into all the time in our day job, sizing, complex workflows, domain problems, they're too big to solve. And if we don't break them down, it's going to be epic failure. So for example, Steve Marchetti, has a great story that he tells about the United Kingdom rolling out a brand new unemployment system. Okay, so unemployment, that applies to a huge number of people. It's a complex domain. It's an entire nation to do that. And then, how many government projects of that scale are successful? Epic fail, right? Thankfully, what the people who were running the project thought about was, let's break it down. And what they realized was they could focus on Cornwall. So that's in the lower left part of the UK. And this is a fishing region, commercial fishing. Unemployment benefits only apply during the off season, and it's for very discrete use cases. We can shrink the problem domain. So not only did they narrow it to a smaller subset, they actually narrowed it down even further to one specific town. By the way, I have no idea if it was the town here, but you get the point. So they started at that one town with the one specific use case of commercial fishermen with a distinct start-stop time. They figured out the IT problems, they figured out the domain problems, they figured out all of that. They learned a lot of lessons through failure, and then they broadened out to a still small set of the domain, a region. And from there, they implemented it, and they gradually rolled it out across the rest of the UK. So, I'm sure there were some horrific failures. The point being, they broke it down, they learned, and they made that complex task into little, small, simpler pieces. So the second thing is the importance of getting a coach. I've been a coach throughout my career. Way back into the military, I've been a mentor. I've coached highly competitive sports teams. Learning is hard. And having a coach that can help you navigate through some of these really difficult activities or skills building is critical. So in my weightlifting, I was really fortunate that here in tiny Ashland in Southern Oregon, population like 14 or 20,000, I ran across a guy who is literally a world-class athlete. And my coach, Andy, is the fellow in the lower left picture, and he's on the left side of that boat. That is him trying out for the Olympic rowing team at age 48, and his partner was 52. The picture in the upper right is Andy at the World Masters level whitewater rafting, and his team won. So they're world champions. The guys had decades of sports physiology, decades of very successful weightlifting. And the point being that I got somebody who had the skills to help me figure out how to get through this really complex task. So if we think about it in our day job, we've got really difficult things that we need to learn and also that we need to get over to our client. TDD, 3 little letters that are insanely crazy to learn to do well. Technology platforms, entire platforms, huge complex domains, whatever the cool technology is of the day. And then, maybe you're screwed and have to learn SharePoint, whatever. Point being, we need to find mentors for us so that we can act as mentors and coaches for our clients. Because many of our clients are nowhere near the skill or capability level to jump into things like TDD or, whatever. So finding a coach, finding a good one, learning to be a good coach is critical. So something else that really hit home that was a good relearning was that simple tools solve hard problems. So in addition to going to the gym, I do a lot of work at home. And I don't have a lot of fancy gear. This is what I used for about a year. I've got a sandbag for lifting and carrying. I've got a cinder block that I found in a field next to my house that I used because I was too cheap to buy kettlebells. I've got some really good bands that I can do a bunch of different stuff with. I've got a bucket filled with rocks that I do farmer's carry through. There's a crowbar there, some sledgehammers, and yes, there's a broom because I do distal finger exercises by kind of caterpillar raising and lowering that. So none of this is sexy. None of it's cool, but it gets the job done. I've since added a little bit of gear, but it's still pretty simplistic. So now let's think about our clients and about the problems we have to solve for them. The most complex bits and pieces of technology might not be the best solution. We can find really complex, very expensive tools, but we have to finish the work. And then in most cases, we're handing that off to our clients. Do our clients have the skill and the capability to be able to be competent in adding to and maintaining those tools? Is there something simpler that we can use to solve that business problem? Years ago at Code Mash, a conference up in Sandusky, Ohio, one of the sponsors held a problem challenge, and they had it was a programming challenge. And so they put out this particular challenge, and over the week, a lot of people submitted solutions in Ruby and Python. Somebody did it in assembler because they were a glutton for punishment. The dude who won that, Corey Haynes, won it by submitting a Microsoft Word document with one table in it that solved the business problem. That sponsor changed the rules for the follow-on years, but the point being, sometimes you can creatively think about new ways to solve problems that are simple and help the client out more. So something else in weightlifting that's crucial is get the form first, then add weight. And that's critical because you are in danger not just of failing whatever the movement is, but of hurting yourself or hurting somebody else. But, significant injury can happen here. So this is me working on the snatch lift. And you'll notice that I've got no weight on the bar at all. And moreover, I was only working on one very small part of the snatch lift. There's no weight on the bar. And if you look to the lower left, you'll see a pink bar. So a regular Olympic bar is 45 pounds. We didn't start there. We started off working with that pink bar that's 35 pounds. Behind that is an aluminum bar that's 25 pounds. And behind that is a wood dowel. We started with that wood dowel. And over the course of about 20 minutes, my trainer kicked my ass, worked me very hard with no weight on the frickin' bar because we were working on the form to nail the form and then later add weight. The point being, when you're starting something out, you have to learn how to master that skill. So let's think about the day job piece of things, right? We've got code katas, we've got test-driven development. You can move up to ATDD. And for those of you that have been around a while, you might remember the old memes about web scale everything. The point being, technology's hard, and you can't just jump into microservice, containerized, Docker, blah, 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 whatever. Or for domains, right? We do software assessments or process assessments as part of getting our clients ready for transformations. If you're new to consulting, you can't just drop into those and succeed. You have to start small. You have to learn the process. You have to build your skills. And that's really critical. In weightlifting, you can hurt yourself. In our day jobs, we can fail, which is bad for us as individuals. It's bad for Centric. And at the end of the day, it's bad for our clients. So another thing which is really interesting, because it's something I've tended to harp on, but I realized I'd forgotten about. which is the importance of setting goals. So a couple years ago, I set some goals for my personal life. I wanted to be able to stop somebody that was hurting people. So I took up some self-defense study. I wanted to be able to help somebody who was badly hurt and get them to survive long enough for EMTs, the real pros, to come up. So I looked into trauma care and have explored that and done some learning there. And then I had another goal that was I wanted, excuse me, I wanted to be able to carry somebody out of danger and just get them to a safe spot. Well, that means I've got to build my own strength. And so over the course of a couple years, I worked up to the point through training with Andy of working on deadlift and working on squat. But I didn't start at, that high level of capability. I built a goal to that. And this is 250 pounds worth of weight right here. I didn't start at that point, but that was a process of having a goal over a couple years and working toward that goal. And there might have been a little jumping up and down when I got 3 reps with 250 on the bar, because that goal felt really good to hit. So what about the day job? It's important for us to have goals so that we're keeping our brain engaged and we're adding value to ourselves. That's a really important thing. Obviously we want to try to do the best we can for Centric, but, bringing that a bit more toward you personally, having those goals is critical. And so last year, I decided I wanted to get a little more technical. I've been out of kind of the technical front line for a number of years, and I miss it. But there are some great places that I can add value to myself and add value to Centric. So I've been working in performance testing for a long time, but I wanted to take my skills even further. So I've got kind of a roadmap of things I need to look at. Before I came to Centric last year, I've been stuck in enterprise horrible clients that were using old technology. So I don't know JavaScript, and I do not know mobile testing. And I need to get competent at those. But I'll never go back to SharePoint, and you shouldn't either. So having those goals is a critical thing because, don't just let the wind blow you willy-nilly. Figure out, both in the personal life and in your technical life, what you can do to keep your mind active. And, hopefully it adds some value to Centric, but it's more critical that you are progressing your own skills and capabilities. And then it's our job at Centric to kind of figure out where we can use that to help you out, to help us out, to help the clients out. So what's the lesson here? Learning happens everywhere, right? If you are working hard at something, you're discovering things that you may totally have forgotten about. So take those learnings, figure out that gold that you're discovering, those kind of meta pieces, and figure out what you can do with it. And that, folks, is the end of my talk. Thanks for bearing with me.